The saying, treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen, sounds like the kind of bad advice one guy gives another in one of those American high school dating movies. It turns out, though, there's some truth to it, and that boys and watch collectors very much like to be treated mean to be kept keen. Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. And yeah, there seems to be, we as watch collectors, watch enthusiasts, really seem to like being treated mean by our watch community. Ariel Adams has banged on in many articles about the apparent reluctance of the Swiss industry to market properly and has been openly scathing or mocking of the answers he's sometimes got from the Swiss watch CEOs about why they don't market more, in that they didn't want to appear desperate. They didn't want to appear needing that kind of support, that kind of advertising. And as I said, Ariel's been kind of scathing of that. And yet, if you look at our behavior, that would seem to be the case. I mean, we acknowledge that brands like Rolex and AP and Patek withhold the watches we want, make conscious decisions not to market them, and we know full well that they're doing that as a tactic to get us to buy other watches. We know it, we talk about it, and we just keep coming back. More than that, we then tell other companies to mirror their behavior. We say over and over again, Omega, Breitling, whoever, you should be more like Rolex. You should make less watches. You should make it harder for us to get them. You should have less choice. Recently, when I was asking about, I did a thing on, what would Omega need to do to overtake Rolex? Actually, I was just talking about Omega quality, but that's beside the point. A number of you came back and said Omega will never pass Rolex as long as they've got all of these limited editions. And people have said the same about Seiko and Grand Seiko, that limited editions, making more watches available for us to buy, appears desperate, appears needy. It devalues the brand somehow. Likewise, most recently, when Breitling put out this new kind of lease or rent system, which can, you pay a couple of $100 up front, pay $100 and something a month, and you can get 3 watches per year, get a chance to buy one cheap. Sounds like a great idea. Sounds like, whether you might think it's expensive, you might not like Breitling, that's beside the point. In general, I would have thought we would normally applaud the idea of a company making it easier for us to experience a watch, making it easier for us to try something out before we wear it. And yet, Breitling have been met with sometimes indifference, sometimes outright hostility for this move. Again, all of the catch cries like about limited editions. This is desperate. This is a cash grab. This is a way of, them getting watches off the market. The idea that it's just something that is another way of making it easier for us to experience watches seems to be an anathema to people. It just seems to be like that's not even something that we would value. Now, there is, in fact, some science to this. We as humans have brains designed, 250, 300,000 years ago to do things certain reasonably well, but they include a lot of logical flaws. And one of those is this idea that we kind of value being treated like shit by potential girlfriends or people that want to sell us a watch. That there's a scarcity thing or a reactive thing inside of our brain that says when we can't get something, when something is harder to achieve, we somehow want to do it even more. I'm thankfully largely immune to that kind of response. I'm very thankful that my logical flaws are all somewhere else and that I really have an intensely negative reaction to being treated that way. But clearly, many others do not. what that does pose a really interesting paradox for brands that are behind Omega and behind Rolex, who want to advance themselves, want to sell more, but at the same time can't appear desperate, can't appear like they're needing you. What would be the answer? You know, that's a really big question. That's probably something beyond me. Certainly it's beyond my expertise. I do lots of things, but I don't do marketing. My guess would be take a leaf out of the people who do this well, Rolex. Rolex spends more money than anyone else. In fact, they possibly spend more money than the rest of the Swiss watch industry combined on marketing. But one of the things you'll notice is that they almost never market a watch, and they market very indirectly. There's not a lot of pictures of Rolex watches and the name Rolex and people wearing them. All you tend to see is an awful lot of green clocks at tennis matches, green concrete walls at Formula Ones, that sort of thing. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe the answer is to not necessarily focus on selling your watch to someone, but rather to simply spend your money in getting your name, even if it's dissociated from your product at all, just getting your name in front of the right people in the right contexts. Maybe that's what's required. Anyway, I've been Pete McConville, and this has been Not So Obvious. What I'd love to know is, what's your personal response to this? How do you react to the idea that, you know, the watch companies are deliberately treating you mean, and does it make you feel keener to get hold of them, or does it repel you, or do you fit somewhere in the middle? You kind of don't like it, but it's the cost of doing business. I'd love to know. Leave a comment below. I'll see you later. Bye.